Let's go.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the very, very first zcast recording with a podcast about Action Academy, about CP Future, and about the great team that we have that you all have gotten to know all these years in our ecosystem. But today and in these next series of episodes, you're going to hear a little bit directly from them about what they think. What is going on? Okay, whatever. Let me start over. I don't know where that was coming from. Okay, hold up.
We can have a blooper reel at the end.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
Yes, all of our bloopers
Definitely,
we need to put
yeah.
together. I'm editing all of that.
Okay, we'll restart. Oh, we just
Tyra,
keep,
Blossom,
or
you guys have to
actually,
stay unmuted.
Yeah, you just keep recording, and then at the end, you just edit
we
it.
just record, and then you guys can cut and
Yeah.
paste. Okay, all right. Take two. Okay, take two. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Larcy Douglas. I'm one of the directors here at Common Power. I know that these podcasts are normally seeing David or Charles, but is David or Charles here this time around? I don't think so, right, team? Nope, not here. So you're seeing
I'm David.
No, we're not doing that. Never mind. Well, we're not today anyway. Maybe that's a different type of podcast down the road. But anyway, we wanted to record a series of podcasts so you all out there get to know the amazing people that have led Common Power Future and all the things Gen Z related in our ecosystem. So welcome to our first ever podcast. And what's the title of our podcast, Kara?
zcast. Insert theme music here.
No, don't do that. Okay, anyway. Well, we wanted to ask a question, right? What's the question we want to ask people?
Is this America? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, always. We always ask for our friends, just because always ask for friends. So we have a special guest today. We'll get to him in just a second here. Ahmed Baba, who technically knows everything about the first Trump administration and who best to guide us through this second term than him. And we'll get to know why he was best for this particular first episode of our podcast. So is this America? Asking for a friend. And one of the things that we wanted to do in this podcast is to have a snack theme because we like to eat, and Gen Zs and millennials love to have snacks. So we do have a snack today, and our snack of choice for this round are Cheetos. Hey, does everybody have their Cheetos? Where's your Cheetos?
Yeah.
You have it? Ahmed, where's yours?
Yeah, I didn't get the memo.
You didn't get the memo? Oh man, okay, shoot.
No.
We got you, go.
Oh, wow. What's this? Where does this come from?
This
Yeah,
is amazing.
You just sending Cheetos through Zoom now? Yeah, all right, great.
Look,
That's the vibe.
that is a new Zoom feature. So if you just go update
This
your
is advanced.
Zoom, it does say, give me snacks.
You just Doctor Strange portaled that thing, right? I saw
I
it,
know,
like,
like Larcy's opening her
it just
portal.
came straight. Yeah, she just.
Yeah,
I mean,
perfect. Perfect. Okay,
Appreciate
well,
it.
this is one of the things that we have to do during the second Trump administrations. We got to look out for each other that much more, and we have to be resourceful that much more. So if you're out there, we got you. If you're out there wanting to join this ecosystem or in our ecosystem, we got you. So if you need Cheetos, let us know. We got some bags. Just come to the office. All right. So why did we choose Cheetos? Kyra and Blossom, you guys have Cheetos. Like why are we theming out this particular snack?
So for me, I got Cheetos Original Crunchy, and I got this to represent our president-elect, how he looks very similar to this, but also right now the climate of our democracy is crunchy. It's crunchy. It's just a lot going on. No, not smooth at all. And yeah, so we got Cheetos.
A little bumpy.
It's bumpy. We're representing what we saw during election day. A lot of bumps.
A lot of bumps. Okay. A lot of bumps. All right. How about you, Kyra?
So the Cheetos I brought are flaming hot. And that's because if you don't know, a lot of the President-elect's cabinet picks actually helped write Project 2025. And they are attacking climate. You think it's hot now, babes? Just wait and see.
All right, Ellie, what do you have? What Cheeto do you have? What's your choice of Cheeto?
I brought the hot Cheeto Puffs, the spicy. And I said that the Trump presidency is like the hot Cheeto Puffs. It's spicy at first, but by the end you're sweating, regretting, and wondering why you brought you know,
You thought you
Yeah,
could
you thought you
handle
could
the
handle
heat,
the
right?
heat.
Like seriously, you thought you could do
and
it.
then at the end, you're just like trying to get some water, but the climate is gonna be bad. So
These analogies are just.
All right, so I chose baked Cheetos because sometimes you want to choose what you're thinking is choosing a healthier alternative, but then you realize it's just as messy and it's the same set of powders that get you in your hand anyway. And so at the end of the day, you're still left regretting your life choices, even though you thought you made the right one.
That's preaching right there.
Okay.
Okay, Ahmed, what about you? What's your choice of Cheeto?
Well, I mean, since it looks like you threw me through the portal, some crunchy Cheetos here, and I guess what I would look at it is, they look rugged, they look tough, they look kind of rough, and they kind of look a little on the, hard side. But to be honest, they're just like Trump and his goons. They're really actually easy to break. You just gotta snap them in half, and you can, under a little applied pressure, they just fumble and they collapse. So yeah,
I love it. Oh my gosh. All right. So for all of you that's out there listening in, wonderful analogies as to what we're going to expect. And the reason why we think that's what we're going to expect is because we've been through this before. To remind everybody that common power was birthed out of the first Trump administration. And the work that Ahmed has done was also birthed out of the first Trump administration. So some of us a little bit experienced, although we did not want to be here again. You do have some folks who know what they're doing so that we can be guided properly in the next 4 years. So we wanted to invite Ahmed here today and kind of give us maybe what to look forward to and how to protect ourselves and also brace ourselves for the next 4 years. But before we even go there, like Kyra, we got to know who this guy is. I mean, he's been an amazing addition to our ecosystem. He's been a great mentor to a lot of our Gen Zs in our ecosystem. He's been one of our legacy speakers. Why am I doing the intro for you? Go ahead, say something.
Zcast, not Millennial Cast. Listen, guys.
Excuse me?
Ahmed has been phenomenal. He's been with us since I graduated Action Academy, and he has taught us how to keep mis and disinformation like no other. I'm talking about on TikTok, Threads, Twitter. Listen, he's clocking it every single time. He also runs this really cool network called Rant, where he basically just shades Trump all day long. It's great. So yeah, without further ado, our special guest.
All right, well, welcome, Ahmed.
Thank you. Thank you. I've loved being part of the ecosystem. It's been wild out here. And like you said, we both were birthed out of Trump. I mean, not, that's wrong wording. But we were both kind of born we both rose from the ashes of the Trump 2017 presidency, and that's why I'm sure if everyone watching, like, why are they so happy right now? It's because we've been here before and we know we can get through this again. It's going to be much worse this time, significantly worse, but we know we can power through it. So I'm happy to be here to talk about how we move forward and keep a level head and, and be clear-eyed about what we have coming.
All right, well, let's get to it. I'm about to open one of these because it's going to be a long conversation, but let's figure out which healthier choice, at least that we're going to eat through. So I'm going to go with the baked here with the flaming hot. I can stand the heat, so let's get cracking on this conversation. Go ahead, Ellie.
These analogies are just, go ahead.
So, we just wanted to know, what are some action items that some fellow Gen Zs can start doing as we start to prepare for the Trump administration?
Well, I mean, first things first, just get your mind right. Do whatever you can to find internal peace. That is the most important thing. Because once your vibe is set right and once you're able to be measured throughout because we're about to be hit with an onslaught of just a lot of stuff. They do this on purpose. Steve Bannon called it flood the zone with I don't know if I can cuss on this. But he said flood the zone with S, you know what I'm talking about. And basically that's what it is. It's an avalanche of just garbage that they spread at us. These negative headlines, these cabinet picks, they're just trolling us. They exist to own the libs. That's why they're so mad people are leaving Twitter to Blue Sky and these other social platforms. So I would say the number one thing you can do for yourself as an action item is to just figure out ways to guard your mental health and
Mhm.
best ways to ignore the trolls, because if you're not letting them trigger you, you've already won a lot of battles. So that's like number one. And then obviously, as we're rolling through, just keeping a level head. Trump, obviously, we've talked about how he's a wannabe authoritarian, but we want to not give him more power than he has, right? There's a lot of stuff he's going to do, but it's not going to be immediate autocracy. It's not immediate democracy's over, no more elections. It's not going to happen. We still have the midterms. Just keep hopeful, and there are actionable things we can do to check him. And just another thing to keep in mind on that front, and we'll move, I'll stop talking for a second, is that recognize that their incompetence is real. Like, they are clowns. They are horrible human beings. This time they have more competence, but judging by his cabinet picks, they are still very much just as clownish as they were last time. And we can be smarter and we cannot mobilize them. So that's what I would say.
Okay, well, that deserved a Cheeto snack.
And
Seriously.
speaking of cabinet picks, what are your views on the cabinet picks?
So we're getting into a section called Praise or Shade. Okay. Commentator Blossom is on immediately right now. So we're going to highlight some of the cabinet picks. And the first one I want to highlight is Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Good
Shade,
choice.
shade,
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 shade, shade,
Jade.
shade. Okay. I'll say like a couple of like comments that he has said. He believes that women should not be in the military.
Yep, shade.
And I think that is that's a big reason just for shade.
Right.
But Ahmed, what do you think? Do you shade? Do you praise? How do you think about that option for our
I
defense?
shade him for real. I shade him. Like, I got the shades to shade him. I'm saying, like, legit, he is just horrible. He's a Fox News personality. He says, yeah, women can't be in combat roles. He wants to end woke in the military, diversity training, whatever that means. Basically, what, he's gonna hunt down black people in the military and say they can't be there? He's basically going to sit there and implement everything Donnie wants him to. And that's the concern, is because Trump says I'm just get serious for a second. He says he wants to use the military against the enemy within, he calls it, right? Invoking the Insurrection Act against protesters, using the military against migrants. And if you had a sane, level-headed defense secretary, he would say no, like Mark Esper did when Trump asked Mark Esper, "Can I shoot the protesters?"
Right, I remember that.
During the George Floyd protests. And they were like, Mark Milley and Esper were like, no, you can't. Right. So that, given the knowledge, because I documented every day of the first presidency and first term. That's why, you could see that there were guardrails there to prevent him. Someone like Hegseth and these other cabinet appointees, they're not going to push back on anything. So, yeah, but obviously the law and this stuff might get tied up in courts and whatnot. But yeah, just trying to killing the vibe real quick.
No, it's fine. No, this
No,
definitely.
I think
it's so real,
it's very real, because I think that people need to be aware of these cabinet. Like, it's the thing on the news, the biggest thing on the news, because he keeps picking out people that he thinks that are going to be against like all types of regular, not odds, but like against like what we think or our values as just regular civilized
regular
Americans. People. That's why I should say. But along with Pete, there's another person that his name has been everywhere. RFK Jr.
Oh my God.
RFK Jr.
We need a sign. We need a sign that just like flips up, like shade.
No, seriously.
Larcy, you have the baked chipped version of RFK Jr.
Oh,
You think it's healthy, you think it's great. It's actually horrible for you.
wow.
And there's health benefits.
Yeah,
So,
I could probably
there's
go.
a
I just looked in that bag. It looks exactly like RFK himself. You see
Right.
that one right
I
there?
mean, wait, hold on. Hold on. So, like, the ingredients, right? We got niacin, I don't even know if I'm saying these things right. Mononitrate riboflavin. What the disodium guanylate? Like
Gibberish.
Exactly. Gibberish.
Nonsense in a bag.
And Kennedy, RFK Jr. Let's make sure all the Kennedys are not bad. We want to make sure that we're specifying that. So he made a comment about possibly chlorine in the water, or maybe he said something, a different
It
chemical.
was
but
fluoride, wasn't it?
Fluoride.
Fluoride in the water,
Fluoride.
making people possibly autistic and transgender, causing infertility rates as well as diabetes, obesity, sleep disorders. He put a lot of things in one category. And this is the person that's going to oversee our health system. Is he a doctor? How do you feel about that? I know I know that it's a shade for me, but how do you feel about someone thinking that cleaning the water is going to supposedly make people gay?
I think that it's this rhetoric again where people are trying to find excuses instead of actually helping folks. It goes back to even not even simple, but major departments that we have, like the Department of Education. We have systems in place to help people who are autistic and special needs and need assistance. So maybe instead of stopping cleaning water, we should help people who have these things and understand how they move in the world instead of trying to shut down the Department of Education. Clearly we need it.
And
Clearly
while we're talking about that, Department of Education, it's supposed to be closed. Trump, President-elect Trump, sorry, let me respect you, President Trump.
Let's use our titles.
Let's use the titles. President-elect Trump wants to definitely close the Department of Education in DC.
Did you see his pick?
He just chose Linda McMahon,
Yep.
Vince McMahon's wife, former founder of the WWE.
Right.
It ain't wrong, guys.
Because I guess
near you.
I guess he wants to body slam the Department of Education. So
there we go.
What better pick than WWE?
Shade.
You know, it's Idiocracy. You know the documentary I call it the documentary. The movie Idiocracy. It's a documentary. It's real.
It's real.
It's real because these people he has, the whole point of it is the fact that they have disdain for the very agencies they're going to be leading.
Yeah.
And they're going to go in there and they're going to dismantle it.
They don't like
recesses.
Because they want to make them less effective.
The recesses is how they're getting in too.
Exactly.
Which I never even knew about.
And it's crazy because like one more person we'll discuss is Michael Gates.
Oh, Mike Gates.
Or Matt Gates.
For the AG.
Matt Gates.
Yeah. For Attorney General. So I'm so serious.
Major shade.
He already major shade. No praise at all for any of these cabinet picks.
No.
But I think it's insane that someone who has been accused of or alleged of supposed abuse and things of that nature is picked as our Attorney General.
Yeah, and they already decided. Wasn't there like an ongoing investigation with him? And then now they're like, oh, we don't need that anymore. And so it's like, so where do we hold our systems to uphold morality, ethics, and accountability, right? Like we have been taught in order to be productive citizens in our society, the contributions that we need in our society are about accountability and responsibility. And here they are parading right on through the highest powers of our country, like, nope, don't need that. Nope, don't need that. And so it's like, well, what else are we going to hope for? But, I innately deep down know, as history has shown us and as the timeline of humanity, that there is going to be a balancing act at some point. Now, the question is, how and what will we do actively to pursue those years for that balancing act to occur?
Yeah. And just on the note of the cabinet picks, it's just affirmative action for grifters, it's just straight up DEI. It's DEI. You didn't want to talk about DEI. These people have no qualifications. They say Kamala and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action or were DEI picks just because they're black and black women, but they have all these qualifications. You have Pete Hegseth. Boy, he's going to go lead a $800 billion budget now. Like, you have Matt Gates, who is just a creep. His only qualification is that he has him and Trump have the sexual misconduct allegation thing in common. Like, it's just a whole cabinet filled with the worst possible people. They're unqualified. Their only qualification is loyalty to Donald. And like you said, Kyra, we have multiple people that were part of Project 2025. I tell you, I got in a Twitter beef with the incoming FCC chairman.
What,
show that
already?
on TikTok.
I didn't
Yeah.
see it.
Everybody go follow him on TikTok. If you want to see some messy tea, oh, that's the page. That's the tea page right
The
there.
FCC, the Brendan Carr wrote the FCC chapter in Project 2025.
Oh, okay.
And Trump, he's a current FCC commissioner, and Trump announced he's going to be the FCC chairman. So I called it out on Twitter because I've been writing about Project 2025 in my newsletter for like over a
Yeah.
year, warning about this, and going on MSNBC yelling about Project 2025, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's actually not his project." Well, Trump's out here picking people who are part of Project 2025, including this author. I called it out, and then he slid in my replies at 2 a.m. Eastern time. He's in Washington, D.C. 2 a.m. This man was awake, searching his own. I didn't tag him. He was searching his own name on Twitter.
Ellie, are you okay?
Or he was up at night thinking
He
about
was
you.
up at 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m.
And he went into my replies at 2 a.m. because he was searching his own name on Twitter like a alleged serious man would do at 2 a.m. And he said, "I'm sorry this happened to you." That's what he said to me.
What?
About all I did was say that he was the author of Project 2025. And then I could have been petty too, but instead I responded and was like, "While I have you here, do you promise to not target broadcast licenses of networks Trump doesn't like?"
Yeah.
You know, like I asked him a serious question.
Yeah.
And then he responded, that went viral, and then he responded again the next day and said, "I'm sorry this happened to you again."
What in the world?
Total
That's so
weirdos.
cryptic.
It's cryptic and I'm on the enemies list now, clearly. But like,
God.
the point is,
Like, was that a threat?
Right, that
was-
I think that might have been a threat. Wait, womp womp. Pause.
FBI, before January
Womp
20th,
womp.
please call.
Hello?
Please,
Hello?
before January 20th.
no,
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not gonna call the FBI. They're about to run it themselves.
Before January 20th, we
No,
need the
check out.
FBI and CIA.
Yeah,
Ahmed, just move
Uninvited.
to Washington. We're the safe haven now of all
yeah.
the
I mean,
all the
because point is like, he's a troll, and all his fans were responding on Twitter like, "Oh, you got him," or "Oh, he's so triggered." And meanwhile, I'm just chilling like, "Yo, that's weird, man. Like, why would you reply?"
Okay,
And he's the one up at 2 a.m., you know?
I want to talk about this really quick because that's actually a really, really good thing to go into because it is really hard sometimes when it's like, you know, if I sat here in the whole entire podcast, I'm just sitting here poking Ellie. At some point, Ellie's going to snap and be like, "Cut it out," right? But that's what they do. They do these tactics until they move you to something, right? So this idea that the trolling, and we talk about this in our mis and disinformation curriculum, but the troll farms, there's active accounts out there to just provoke, right? Because they want an energy out there because that's what the algorithms eat. And that gets brought up to the tops of these algorithms, and that's what pushes these narratives that really didn't start out that way. So, you know, we're sitting here shading these people and almost like they were trolls to begin with, right? And then now for some reason they've made it through these higher ranks of these decision makings across our country and our ecosystem of what needed to have some type of morality. Like, it's like, how do people now say, like, what hope do we have into, like, that's not somebody I want to look up to, nor do the children into our society be like, that's kind of what power is. You're like, not exactly here. So when we go back to the conversation of like, hey, this is what we got. How do we work with this? It's 4 years. I know, like you said, Ahmed, we got midterms coming up, but for the young people in this podcast, like, they're going to live through their entirety of their life with a Supreme Court that is, a lot more conservative than what it has been in the last 50 years. The judiciary landscape on how and who determines what's right and wrong is not progressive at all. So how do we give them that hope as the older people in this call, in this podcast, to be like, hey, we got your back, we're here for you, and like, we're gonna get through this together.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I had to mute just now. My dog was going wild. But I really think just generally, it's about just recognizing that, like, you've talked about this before, Larcy, the ebbs and flows of progress, like in backlash, and that when there's progress made, there is inevitable backlash. And also just hunkering down and recognizing, although this is really, it feels really unprecedented, I think there's not only parallels abroad to look at to make ourselves feel more comforted, but the American South before the 1960s, right? Like America's been in dark places before.
Yep.
We had we had slavery, like it's not like Trump feels like this. And yes, his pursuit of presidential power, executive power, and authoritarian view on power is truly personally unprecedented from a presidential standpoint, but our government has been wildly authoritarian in the past, and we have persevered. And oppressively authoritarian to Black people specifically, and look at us today, just a few generations after, right? So I would say just to hold on to hope would be that it feels insurmountable now, but like time passes, things change, and also you can't let them get to you on the troll side because that's one of the keys that they're trying to win through. But also, when it comes to the Supreme Court and these other things, we just have to recognize Trump can't run again. We don't have to beat him again. I'm not on the whole third term. Like, I'm not one of those people online you'll see saying he's going to run for a third term. He can't. Constitutionally, he just can't, right? I don't think, like, it's just like there's no way the Supreme Court could be interpreted. So he's not going to run again. It'll be JD Vance. We just have to wait him out and fight hard to get the midterms right. And then if you get the House and the Senate in the midterms, impeach the guy again. I don't know. But like, I really think he's gonna my current theory, which is different from a lot of people, is that he's gonna wildly overreach.
Yes.
I think a lot of Americans who were tuned out, we saw the divide was between tuned in and tuned out Americans. That's the real divide. People were paying attention, and those who watch Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and Bro podcasts and don't have no idea what he's actually going to do. When they see grandmas being ripped out of their homes, when they see 1 in 15 Americans are in a mixed status household,
Yep.
they see all these families being torn apart. Trump does his stupid tariffs. Prices go up, not down, because that's why they elected him. They elected him for prices. Okay, prices go up, not down. What happens then? Are you guys going to reward this man? You see how
It's
they're
the
acting
same
today
people
with the
who are Googling. It's the same people who are Googling, can I take back my vote? Or was the
Literally.
tariff the day after? I think, was it Dr. Hassan Jeffries in his lecture that he did was like, people are Googling this the day after because they literally
Yeah.
didn't know the weight of their vote.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
know what they were electing.
exactly, and that's I think this is being my next article because I really think they're gonna overreach. Knowing this man as well as I do, unfortunately, he lived in my brain for those 4 years when I was documenting every day. He overreaches. His first presidency wasn't as bad as it could be in spite of him, not because of him. They were preventing him from doing his worst things. If he has no guardrails this time, he's going to unleash horrible things and it's going to really suck and it's not going to be fun for anyone. The human toll is going to be terrible, but in the end, it's going to backfire. And it's going to suck because a lot of people are saying people are messing around and finding out. I don't take joy in that, but I think when people see what like this time they're okay, fine. You're going to see what he really is now. We've warned you this whole time. You didn't believe us. Okay. To see if you thought he was going to, your egg prices are going to go up and your economy is going to be trashed. So like, just super positive, uplifting stuff ahead of us. But the point is like, I pray he just doesn't do his worst things, but my overall point is he's going to overreach and it's going to backfire and Americans are going to hold him accountable.
Well, my thing with the prices on eggs is just go buy the damn chicken coop.
I have seen someone.
Let's go back.
And that is a larceny.
And that was the millennial moment, everybody.
No,
That was
seriously.
the millennial moment.
That was our millennial moment.
That was the millennial moment. What were you gonna say, Ellie?
No, I was like, I have seen someone that was like literally had bought like the slices of cheeses, and she's like, I'm literally counting how much the price is.
Oh yeah.
She's like, for the cheese and this and that. And she's like, see how it's gonna go down. And then someone was like, if you want cheese, just buy a bigger block and just cut the slices. It's much cheaper. But people don't understand it, and prices are just gonna rise.
And that's gonna be across all these different sectors. Like that's the thing about the under like the lack of knowledge and how systems are all interconnected, right? So like that type of regret about voting for somebody that is going to actually go against your interests. Like there's a huge weight right now in the Filipino community about immigration, because a good chunk of our medical industry is importation or the import of Filipino nurses from the Philippines. And their status is also questionable, right? Because I think like they announced that they were gonna immediately go and remove or deport 11 million, people out of the system who are here illegally. And then, they don't know what that is. And like part of their methodology isn't built in with a thorough thought of equity, of inclusion, of morals, and is this the right thing to do? Like I think Vivek or somebody, whoever that person is, they were like, if your social security it ends in a 5 or an odd even number, or like, well, your name sounds Filipino, so you're off the list, and you're just like, what? That is not a good method.
Yeah, I really think that they are going to go in there and they're brazen and they feel validated by this election, and they're just their plans are vindictive, and it's not about legal status with these undocumented immigrants. He wants to roll back the temporary protective status for Haitian migrants. They kept calling them illegal the whole campaign, even though they were legal. But he wants, and that's gonna, if they roll back TPS status, it's gonna affect not only Haitians but hundreds of thousands of migrants. And then we see these anecdotes of undocumented migrants as well, who were saying, "Oh, if I could vote, I would vote for him," because I don't think he's talking about me; he's talking about the criminals, right? And it's just people were just in for a surprise, a really unfortunate surprise.
People are really uneducated, and it's sad they fell for the mis and disinformation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even on TikTok now, I was seeing a lot of trends where people were arguing with, people like white Southern women. At first it was, it wasn't us that voted for him. We didn't do these things. And now they're saying that Black women want to fight them. Like there's so much divisiveness happening, I think, in different groups of people and minority groups. And his whole thing was, I'm going to unite the nation. But we can see it. You're president-elect, and you're making things even more divisive. You're not even president yet.
Yeah,
He's making people, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, for example, like immediately, I think after election day, multiple of my friends and a lot of women, Black men, even Hispanic women and men were getting texts about, come to this place at this time, wear this thing, basically telling them to come to a plantation or that they're getting deported.
Oh yeah, those racist texts.
Yeah.
And that was immediately.
You got did some of your friends?
So a lot of my friends got it in DC. So
wow.
and Washingtonians, DC girls, they was waiting. They said, "Oh, we'll meet you at that spot with the YNs." Oh, don't search up what the YNs mean, volunteers. Love you guys, but for the other people, they were waiting for. They said we're waiting for them.
It's this violence.
So it's becoming this thing where like everybody is gonna feel like, all right, I'm with this group of people, and I'm gonna only defend this group of people. But that's what's splitting up America right now at this point. Like we need we need unification. We need togetherness. And I think that also, like, as minorities, once we realize that, like, when we come together as well, that can help us a lot in terms of like not fighting back, but more so like, I mean, yeah, kind of fighting back.
Understanding that like the least of these, when you help the least of these, you help everybody. There's a social norm. There's a social list of how people are treated in this country. It's unfortunate, but it's real. If you're somebody walking around with privilege, if you're a young white dude who is straight and mask presenting, dude, you got the golden ticket. You need to be an ally for people who are Black and brown, are queer, are trans. Like that is something that you need to shoulder, because for far too often, minorities have shouldered that by themselves. And now look at us. We're all divided in our corners. I'm just going to protect my people. That's not how we win this fight.
Nope.
Charles was saying that to us the day after the election. Backing into your corners and retreating, that's not how we're going to get through the next 4 years.
And that's absolutely right. And that's why, like, starting these series of conversations, podcasts, for people to just see like what allyship is about, what we need to do collectively, and that collectivism is what's going to get us to realize like there is somebody out there intentionally designing this divide, right? So like a good story I usually tell people is like, in our Filipino culture, there's a story that, or a common phrase that says Filipinos have crab mentality. And then, so that saying goes that if it's a crab mentality, well, what does that mean? And the conversation keeps going to say, oh, when you put the crabs in the bucket, they pull each other down, right? So in surface, you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to be pulled down, or why are people pulling people down, right? But when that story was presented to me, like later on in my life, I was like, well, who put them in the bucket?
Yeah. Or
Why
who
are they in the
designed?
bucket to begin with? Like, who is deciding to put us in a system where that division and that divide is all that we know or all that we are behaving in, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when you put people in these really, really dire situations or survival behavior, we're going to look at each other as not allies, but we're going to look at each other as enemies because you have resources that I don't have and vice versa. Right. So who is creating that system that's making us feel like that survival is the only methodology to operate in society?
And that is exactly what these forces want, right? I mean, we know Russia's main goal, 2016, was just to divide the US, and look at this end result here.
Yep.
And now with these coalition, fascism rises when the liberal coalitions literally just can't decide on how best to fight fascism, essentially. And that's what happened this election. And that's what's happening even in the aftermath. I think everyone's just really exhausted right now, and everyone will come back to their senses. Everyone's kind of in a restful
This
state.
is on the global
Yeah.
scale, right? Like
Yeah,
this
of
wasn't
course.
just unique to American democracy. It is a trend that had happened throughout the entire planet.
Yeah. It was a global anti-incumbency trend. Like, I think there's also so many factors here. I think people have to just recognize, like, I know there's a lot of blame game being pointed at the different coalitions of who's at fault of why Harris lost. And of course there's the isms, there's racism, sexism, and those things that play the underlying role. I think anyone would have lost if they were, what this was an anti-incumbent backlash that happened around the world. Every developed country that their governing party lost vote shares in the entire world. It was almost fanciful for us to think we would be the ones to beat that trend, right? This is the post-COVID distrust era, fear, COVID. We have a collective trauma from 2020 that we haven't processed yet, clearly, because we're behaving nonsensically and irrationally. Even when things are generally good, we're still freaking out and wanting some massive disruptions and changes. But it's just like, we just have to like think more innovative about the fight. Like, just on the information bubble piece, like, Joe Rogan they say we need a liberal Joe Rogan. Thing is, Joe Rogan was the liberal Joe Rogan. He supported Bernie Sanders, right? Like, we just need more people to go on these spaces. Like, he says offensive things. All right, whatever. Go on the podcast anyway. We need to reach every audience in every space. There's non-casual. Basically, the point is there's non-political content out there that is very political. Is my main point. People think about, we need to invest in progressive media and independent media. What we really need is more non-political content that has a liberal bent, right? Like, we have Hollywood, for example. The backlash to Hollywood is these bro podcasts. That's what we're seeing. And it's just like, we just need to be tough and smart and get out there and like speak like normal people. I'm a victim of this myself, or not victim, but like, I get that, that Hamilton speak Obama era.
Oh,
Live up to our stated ideals. I still
Yes.
write like this myself, but like, regular Americans they can't resonate with. We basically, there's broad distrust in institutions, and because Trump was attacking institutions, Democrats were forced to become uncomfortable defenders of institutions people lost trust in.
Uncomfortable
like,
defender. I like that.
And like, we had to like defend these systems that we didn't even design, or
Yeah.
Kamala had to like defend the rule of law and stand up there with Liz Cheney to defend democracy when that never really looked out for us, and that was uncomfortable for people, right? And it's just, we just have to become disruptors and like at the same time also protectors of democracy at the same time. It's gonna be a really weird balance to walk. I don't know.
You know what? This is like the Mean Girls movie, and how to take down power structures, right? When one of the characters wanted to take down Regina George and have those pillars of power support, totally just got disrupted and dismantled. And all of a sudden, at the end of the movie, spoiler, if you haven't seen it, it totally unfolded that she was not as powerful without her powers of influence. Right. And so if y'all want to go see the movie, not a plug here at all, but it does show a creative approach in how to take down those power dynamics. However, it's very strategic about going after pillars of that power support, not necessarily the power on top to begin with. Right. So I think that's the balancing act that's going to happen here, is that the people on this side is going to realize and will start to question, like, wait a minute, I think I got bamboozled in the same way that these baked Cheetos, baked potato, Thanksgiving's around the corner, sorry. Baked Cheetos make you want to believe there's an alternative, healthier, but really at the end of the day, it's the same set of ingredients that's used, just different packaging. So that's kind of, that's what's people are going to be living through in the next 4 years.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to hear like from you, Kyra, Blossom, and Ellie, just about like what messages did you hear that were targeting Gen Z that you thought swayed some of them towards Trump? Because I know young men, especially young Latino men too, young white men, were swayed over to the Donnie side just with the stupid macho nonsense that all young men have, we fall into when we're teenagers. Most people grow out of it. Most people grow out of that, but like some didn't clearly. But like, what messages do you think was targeting Gen Z that worked, and what do you think we can do to combat these messages?
Go ahead, Ellie.
At least I can speak for the Latino community. Well, some of them. For the men, I was surprised, but not surprised, because how you were mentioning the machista, there's a machista thing where they don't want a female to be too powerful. Like they had to have a certain level in their home to that's what they stand. And so when it came, I feel like what influenced the men is that Trump was up there. He was like targeting everything, but they don't understand how much it's gonna affect their families. Sorry. Because like I'm seeing it now, like people are like, they're like, oh, I'm fine, like I'm documented, my family's documented, but they don't realize he wants to take away the birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
That's literally a lot of Latinos. Because a lot of families immigrated here, and then that's how they were born. And if like he takes away the birthright citizenship, that's like everybody. And that's what they're not understanding. And then also seeing like how people are saying like, oh, he's just wanting to remove like the criminals. But no, how you guys were mentioning, now they're saying like, if they don't want to split up a household, then everybody can go. And that includes like people that were born here that they didn't do nothing, or they did the visa, and stuff like that. But it's just a lot of misinformation that they didn't fully get. Like I'm debating that with my family members. Like I'm like at home, like family members are like, oh, they voted for Trump, or they were for Trump. And then I was like, but you don't realize we are from immigrants, our parents came here for a better life. They've worked years and decades, and they don't pay taxes. And that's another thing too, is taxes. I'm like, they don't get nothing back. And that's another thing too. I was like, we don't, family members, they don't get nothing, receive nothing back from taxes. It's like, and they don't get the right health care. Just a lot of things like that. And it's just, the misinformation just is insane, crazy. I don't know. And that's where people need to get themselves educated as well. Do the right research, trust the right sources, but yeah, I kind of want
that's insightful. I mean, I think that's just, there's so much going on there. I mean, especially with the undocumented, family members, like you said, undocumented immigrants pay taxes. And a lot of people, I feel like people don't know that. A lot of undocumented pay billions of dollars in taxes. Don't get the benefits of it though, like you said. So that's some tea that I think like, I saw a TikTok of someone going on the street and asking random white people if they knew that, or like Trump voters if they knew that. Not white people, they're not all Trump supporters. But asked them, and they didn't know that undocumented immigrants pay taxes. But yeah, that's great stuff. Really insightful. And Blossom, Kyra, did you have any people in your lives, or did you see any messages that that
Okay.
resonated with Gen Z folks that you know, or?
I saw a mixed bag, especially from young Black men and women. There was a
Mm.
varying thing there about this sense of, again, manhood and providing for your family and or wanting to provide for your family. A lot of the things that Gen Zs that are a little bit older talk about is building generational wealth. That's really big for us. And so for these young Black men who didn't grow up with that, they're like, okay, I got to get to the bag. It's about money. So they just saw that with Trump and they're like, okay, X, Y, and Z, go do this. And they didn't fully understand her qualifications too. And a lot of Black women related to her because we're qualified, overqualified most of the time. She worked in all three branches of government. Okay, Big Sister General quite literally was overqualified.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people just saw, well, he was president before, but he wasn't qualified before. And America's not just a business. And so I think a lot of our lived experiences and goals for ourselves, the selfishness, which yes, you should be selfish with your vote at times. But if you say you love a Black woman or you love women and you voted in that direction, how true is that statement? And I think we're recovering from it now. We're recovering. We're gonna get through it. We, as a collection, the 92% went through a bit of a we're only gonna support ourselves. But I
And
think
then we wrote it back.
We wrote it back.
We wrote it back in.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
you got
it was
Like,
it was black.
okay,
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's
it was Black
fine.
women and Jewish women that were. It was 92%, 88%.
Mhm.
I clocked the 88. My fiance is Jewish woman, so she was on that 88%. So I had to clock that percentage too. And you know, they're the only on the of the women groups that like voted at that high of a rate. So, you know, but you're right. A lot of people just trying to go into their. I just want to touch on one thing on that front before we go to Blossom, because the men thing and the money thing is just something I think about all the time. Because you know, and me being a young man myself, and especially having been in my early 20s, all you think about is money at the beginning. Because society pressures you, tells you have to be providers, tells you have to do this. So you're thinking like, how am I going to make it? You think, I want, like you said, you want the bag. You start reading self-help books. You start going down the manifestation rabbit hole. You start reading Napoleon. All you know, you watch the movie The Secret, Manifest. All men go through this. Everybody goes through this, right? And then there's that rabbit hole, and in the end, now, especially in this information, is they are sold into right-wing rabbit holes because right wingers are the home for grifters now, and like easy get rich quick schemes. And Democrats, their messaging around money is like everyone just wants to make a living and get by. And I'm sorry, but no,
Right. I want more than
most
that.
people want to get rich. Like they just do, right? And I feel like Democrats, Kamala had good plans around that too, but they didn't communicate it in a way that was like, we're going to help everybody get the opportunity to get up there. Instead of just saying we're going to tax billionaires, say we're going to help everyone have the opportunity, equal opportunity to get up to these higher levels. That messaging is what I think is missing from Democrats personally. But
I agree. All right, Blossom.
And that because I'm 24 going on to 25. I'm a little bit older in the Gen Z.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Don't ever get. But so my circle group is a little bit of the older generation of Gen Z. And a lot of the messaging I was hearing with Black men, I should say, is she sent thousands of Black men to jail.
Oh yeah.
That was the first misinformation rhetoric that Black men got. And a lot of the Black men I knew were like, well, I'm not voting for nobody sending my people to jail. That was wrong. I educated them, showed them and everything, but also the thing is that the miscommunication got so big. Like it's just like a high school rumor that got so big. It's like
exactly
itself. And then with some other Black women who they look like me, they might have the same background as like they have immigrants and things of that nature. They were thinking along the lines of like, not only would he be better economically, but they didn't see Kamala as like a strong like leader, if that makes sense. And to that, I say you can't like assume what type of leader she will be, but also based off the roles that she has had and based off everything that she has done, has she not shown that she's qualified enough? So I think that within like at least like the older part of Gen Z, a lot of them tried to vote, especially women, tried to vote like I would say the better way for themselves. But as for those that didn't, they just thought that they were doing it based off like the economy, not understanding that a good economy during the Trump presidency wasn't trumped by it's actually getting a benefit from a previous presidency being
Mhm.
Barack Obama. And people don't have that education and also like I think that like the misinformation is a big thing, but also just not having knowledge about how democracy works
Yep.
and how presidency works.
Basic civics.
Yeah, basic civics, and not even having that in schools to the extent that it should be has been a lot of like the reason why we have this rhetoric, the reason why we have left and right going against each other so much. Because the thing is that it is supposed to be a democracy. We have more than two parties, but with the left and right, we're supposed to be able to work together. And like the southern states, I feel like they show that a little bit better than like the north or west side, because like the Democrats in these other states have to work with,
Yep.
Southern
Mhm.
Republicans, and they make a way to work. So I think that going forward, especially like the liberals, we have to start looking at like, how do you work with everyone? You cannot isolate a certain group of people and say, well, you don't have the same views as me, so I'm not going to deal with you. We have seen, obviously, in this election that doesn't work, because those people came out and voted in masses. They came out of their farms and all these other things, not trying to be offensive, but they came
But no,
out.
that's real.
No, but for real, they
were-
came,
they were
they
felt
came,
seen.
they
felt
were
seen.
like, oh, y'all think that we not finna come out, we finna come out
Right.
in troops, and they did that. So yeah, I think that people just have to realize that like we all have to be a part of something. Allyship, regardless of what group you belong to, regardless of your moral, your not your morale, but like your views on certain things. You might not believe in gay marriage, but honey, there are other things that are going to affect you. You might not understand how Medicaid and Medicare work. It might be named something else, but it's literally Obamacare. I mean, like, education is important. That's the biggest thing I can say. Education is so important, and that's why we don't need to have the Department of Education closed.
Right.
And
Go
on that
learn yourself
note,
There
I have some.
Well, thank God for Action Academy. So that's work for us to
Literally.
do, is to go and recruit more people to pipeline in them into that ecosystem that you said is completely needed in this basics of civics and understanding of the systems that govern us, right? Like that definitely is so needed now more than ever. And that, that's just reason for us to go and recruit more people. That's just reason for us that if you're listening to this and you know a Gen Z in your life, like you need to send them to us so that we can get them that proper education to understand how those systems interconnect with each other. So not one particular issue is siloed in their ability to produce or serve something. It is interconnected to other things. And that's the complexity of democracy in our systems, is understanding this butterfly effect does happen. And just because it doesn't affect you immediately, it may affect somebody else. And then how that kind of interchanging of those networks and systems eventually does get to you. And it's just your ability to understand when, where, how, and that's where the education comes in. All right, Ahmed, I'm going to give you the closing remarks here and give you full leeway to do the millennial moment on this portion of our podcast. I think you are a millennial, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like cusp. I'm like, well, I'm not that cusp, but I'm 31, so I'm like 3 years away. 1993. I'm like 3 years away from Gen Z. So I'm not that. I'm the younger millennial.
Okay, so you're on the younger side of the millennial side. I'm actually on the older side of the millennial, but you take it. You go.
So what's a millennial moment? What am I supposed to like do something
What is
corny?
it, Kyra? What did you say it was?
Basically a millennial moment. It's like, when you're talking to your big cousin, they give you some like real ass advice about
Oh, okay. All right.
navigate
Yep.
the world. Because you're a little smart sometimes. You guys.
Sometimes. Just sometimes.
Just a
Yeah,
little.
sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, especially if we're talking to like Gen Z out here, like whenever you have imposter syndrome, just think about these truly terrible people that are out here unqualified, confident as all hell. They don't know any better than you. They're not any smarter than you, and they're out here doing these big things. You can do it. Why not you? If there's these unqualified, horrible human beings out here that rise to these heights and that are literally about to be running the country again here in a second, why not you? You're smarter than them. You're better morally than them. You are more qualified than them probably already, because you probably read more books than they've read, because they just walked in here and we have WWE leading the Department of Education. My point is like for the millennial moment to Gen Z, like, and really anyone of any age, like, it's just time to turn up. You know,
Yeah.
it's just time to it's just time to lock in. Like after the loss happened, the next morning, I was sad. I turned over, I told my fiance what had happened, and she was sad. And then as the day went on, I just locked in. I haven't stopped working since. Of course, everyone needs their rest, but I'm just saying, like, it's time to lock in, and then we're gonna thank ourselves later,
Yep.
2 years from now, when the house is swept. Because I really don't think it's partisan to oppose authoritarianism, and I'm a journalist, but
Absolutely.
like everyone could just do their part. So lock in the midterms. They're gonna be swept 2028. It's gonna be won by a sane, non-authoritarian versus JD Vance. It's probably gonna be JD on the ticket, unfortunately. But we're just gonna lock in. We gotta work. We gotta prepare ourselves, and just don't second guess yourself. Pursue the project. Go do that thing you have in your mind. Trial and error. Fail publicly. It doesn't matter. Learn from it. No one cares or retains anything anymore. Everything is just moving forward. Like seriously, nothing matters.
No, it's not that deep. It's really
It's
not
not that. It's not that
They
deep.
won't remember.
It's not that deep.
Donald Trump was on a rally. I don't know how to word this without being inappropriate. Air stroking a microphone. Y'all see that clip?
Yeah.
He was air stroking a microphone
Yes.
a week before the election, and then that man won. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing matters. Don't be embarrassed. Go do and
So
pursue all of your stuff without any shame. There's plenty of shameless people on the other side.
There you go.
Good people got to be shameless too. All right?
All right. That was praise right there. I think
That
that's
was your
praise.
praise. That was
Praise.
your moment.
That's praise right there. All right, folks, you heard it from the CP Future team, Ahmed, and our first ever podcast. We're going to do a few more of these down the road. Stay tuned for that. We'd love to hear what you all thought about this, but also just a chance again to have you all get to know Ellie and Blossom and Kyra and Ahmed more in these types of spaces. So thank you all for tuning in. So like we said, we got our snacks going. So the next time you are out there looking at the grocery line and you see the Cheetos, you know exactly the analogies that we have been using in our definition of what to expect in the Trump administration.
Uncle Trumpy.
I still got mine.
Okay, Ahmed, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Probably not the last time we'll have you back on here again, but we will see you out there in the Common Power ecosystem, and the rest of you all that's listening in. Thank you, and hopefully you'll tune in to our next episode of the Zcast. Team, what do y'all want to say?
Thank you so much for listening. Listen to the next one coming up. We're gonna have some Action Academy and crew leads and things of that nature. It's gonna be fun, but I'll let Ellie and Kyra go ahead too.
And bring a snack.
Bring a snack.
Bring a snack.
Bring a snack.
Follow us on all of our socials. CP Future on IG. Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Join Action Academy.
Yes.
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 Sign up.
Praise. Praise.
Yes.
Praise.
Hang out with the cool kids. Join Action Academy.
Praise. Praise.
All right.